All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the end of day one. Hopefully you've had a great day so far at the conference. We're so excited to end the day with this incredible panel. So I'd love to welcome you formally to the Chess Renaissance, Modern Challenges for an Ancient Game. My name is Tal. I'm a first-year MIT Sloan student. Been part of the organizing team for this conference, so we're so excited that this panel is now finally here in person. I'd love to introduce our panelists. We have Fabiano Curano, chess grandmaster and founder of C-Squared podcast. Jennifer Shahade, chess champion, professional poker player, and author. Hikaru Nakamura, chess grandmaster, time US champion, and popular chess streamer. And Daryl Morey, president of basketball operations at the Philadelphia 76ers. And the panel is moderated by Danny Wrench, International Master and Chief Chess Officer at chess.com. To give you a sense of how we'll do this, we'll run the panel for about 45 minutes and then save about 10 minutes for Q&A. You could submit questions via Twitter using the hashtag #ChessRenaissance. It's up on the screens in case you forget, and please spell Renaissance correctly. With that, I'll pass it over to Danny.
I was just about to say, I think the test is whoever can spell Chess Renaissance faster gets their question answered. Thank you, Tal. Well, we're excited to be here. This is pretty awesome, and we've done a few chess panels here at Sloan for a few years, but maybe never during a time of so much interest in the game. A little something happened this year, Hikaru. I don't know if you know anything about it. There was a scandal of some kind, right?
Well, the scandal was actually last year, but certainly there was a very big scandal, of course, in recent memory involving cheating in chess, and it's something that I think took many people by surprise. Chess is a game that traditionally it's had a very pristine reputation. We don't generally talk about such things, but I think certainly due to the nature of it involving the world chess champion and happening at such a high level, everyone was talking about it. I think that going forward, we're probably going to keep on hearing more and more about such topics. I think now that it's out there, it does need to be taken seriously by the governing bodies, and kind of we'll see where it goes.
Well, the way you're talking about it makes me want to ask, was it inevitable that something like this would eventually happen at the top? That cheating has existed in chess ever since computers got better than humans. It's been a thing. Do you feel like what happened was inevitable, and maybe ultimately because of that could be a good thing if it's dealt with the right way?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, well, the first thing that changed is chess has had a big resurgence ever since the COVID days starting in early 2020. There's much more interest now. And so if there had been a cheating scandal maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, it would have been very minor. The media wouldn't have picked up on it. But now, due to this popularity, everyone's interested. And I think, yeah, it was inevitable because it does happen. It's the first time I think it's happened maybe at the top level. But we will hear more about it. I think that certainly the game will be better off because of it, the fact that people are aware of these things and we treat it like a serious issue.
No. Fabi, I wanted to throw to you next. You were at the tournament where this scandal went down, but also you play high-level chess. I don't know if you know that. You play high-level chess for a living. That's something you do. What is that?
Podcaster, apparently.
That's right. Well, we'll get to that career in a second. But what is the experience like in chess, where we could draw comparisons to other sports that, you know, if someone's accused of PEDs, it happens before the event happens, or in a team sport, it's not as intimate as a one-on-one game. What goes through a top player's mind when he thinks he might be playing someone who's playing unfairly?
Yeah, that's one of the biggest problems with the online chess, especially. And this is a problem that became known to the outside world following the whole Magnus against Hans scandal. But before that, it was festering beneath the surface for a lot of players. And I think at many levels of chess, from beginning levels, this is something that affected online play, up to the very top level. Even if maybe it wasn't there, the suspicions and the paranoia was there. And organizers, in large part, turned a blind eye to it because it's a very difficult and uncomfortable problem, and a problem which doesn't even have a clear solution, if it has one at all. So many organizers preferred to just not address it, which is in some way why it was a good thing that now people are forced to address it, and organizations, the people responsible for chess, are now forced to address it because the public wants answers, or at least wanted answers. That being said, yeah, from a point of view of someone who thinks they're being cheated against, even if you're not, it really dramatically lowers your level because it gets in your head. You don't know if you're playing against a real opponent, where you can deal with the normal psychological thing, or if you're playing against someone or something that will beat you no matter what, because the best chess engines, or even not the best chess engines, will beat the best humans 100 out of 100 times.
Yeah.
Well, that dovetails with the clutch panel that we just had before, which is that the reason people play well in the clutch, the researchers there, is their level of confidence in those moments, and they can keep their brain active on positive things. So you can imagine a cheating scandal does two things. One is, you know, they win 100 out of 100, so now your confidence drops to 0. And at the same time, you're thinking about, oh my God, is this person cheating? Not like, analyzing the position.
Jen, Fabi touched on something it's a good cue to throw to you, because he said, it's a difficult topic to deal with, and what actually can you do about it? You've been a professional chess player and a professional poker player, so poker has dealt with its fair share of scandals and tried to develop different things. What would you say on the topic of how the chess world dealt with it, and maybe some things that maybe the chess world could learn from how poker is dealing with anti-cheating?
Well, I think that, it's interesting to see chess and poker converge in so many ways. Chess has become so much more glamorous and lucrative and psychological, while poker is now really studied almost exactly like chess is, actually using a flattened grid of all the possible poker hands and using AI to study it. So there's that kind of corollary where you're trying to see if somebody's matching the computer moves too precisely, whether it's chess or poker. I think that poker players, because of the nature of the game, they think very probabilistically when it comes to anything, and that includes cheating. But obviously, whether it's chess or poker, you ultimately want an answer. And I'd like to throw it back actually a few hundred years ago, because there was a massive chess cheating scandal in the 18th century. There was this chess automaton called the Turk. And it would tour around Europe, so it was like a chessboard with like a mannequin attached. It would tour all over Europe. It played against Napoleon. It played against Catherine the Great. And you can imagine, like, it just kind of seemed to make moves by itself, by magic, like centuries before, we had Deep Blue and even early chess computers. Eventually, it actually came to the United States in this very city. So in 1830, the Turk played in Boston against the very best players of Boston, clobbering most of them. And you had to pay an entire $1 to watch it. That was considered an outrageous price at the time.
That's the scandal right there. Big money.
But okay, eventually the secret was unraveled. It took them 80 years, but they were able to deconstruct the Turk, and they found what many had suspected, including Edgar Allan Poe, that there was actually a secret sliding drawer for a human to make the moves surreptitiously.
Yeah.
So, hey, we got through that scandal. I think we can get through
this one.
whatever chess drama brings us.
Well, if anyone else wants to weigh in on the scandal, as Tal already said, there's a hashtag. We're going to get to that. I'm sure a lot of people wanted to know that we were going to talk about this topic. And Daryl, before we move off it, from the outside looking in some ways chess has been ahead of things because we've had to be because of the computers. But maybe the chess world's been young in terms of dealing with a scandal of this level. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's just the rise in chess that made the scandal huge, and then unfortunately I become very versed in the press because of my job, and the press always needs a hook, and this one had a hook that I can't say. Looks like Sue Bird on the last panel couldn't talk about her scandal for the same reason, it turned out. So anyway, it went viral. It got on every newspaper, and everyone actually started to believe that some of these crazy things. But I wanted to zoom out not to 1830. My goodness, Jennifer. I was going to zoom out to chess has always generally been ahead. Like, they were the first to use computers in a significant way in their sport. They were first to be able to do systematic chess detection, cheat detection in their sport. And yeah, you were sort of late to a scandal that was on the front page of every single newspaper. And I think a lot of times when those scandals happen, the mistakes happen early. So I did feel like I know enough about cheat detection. I'm no expert. We have experts in the audience and on this stage. But I knew that you couldn't tell if someone was cheating just from one game. So while I knew some background that he had cheated before online, I felt it was behooved that you needed to still presume innocent until guilty in an over-the-board situation and sort of let it play out, because if someone's cheating, eventually they'll be discovered. Like just like in every other sport, there's been steroid scandals, there's been doping scandals, there's been everything. Eventually, these people are found out. It's better to let them hang themselves than to jump the gun. Because
are you saying you want to run PR for chess.com going forward? Because we might need.
I like my job, but
well, think about it.
Yeah, we need you in Philly.
No, but I think it's fair, and yeah, it's been complicated. So.
But I feel like the chess community got it right eventually, it feels like to me. So.
Yeah, even in that case of the Turk, there were two boys who saw a human climbing out of the machine, but they weren't believed at first. So it took some time, yeah.
There you go. Eventually everyone's discovered, yeah, so.
Well, the topic of technology may be affecting the game as far back as the 1800s, but more recently with some of the negativity. Technology's affected the game in a lot of positive ways. We'll shift a little bit to the online scene with talking about streaming, talking about the investment into online tournaments, right? The opportunities for a top player are more lucrative than ever. Maybe that makes the incentive higher than ever to cheat. But Hikaru, let's talk about the positive and where you've been a trailblazer. You've been someone who's turned as a professional player into a professional content creator. But will we be talking in 20 years about Hikaru Nakamura, the pioneer, who was the first of top players who did it, or will we be looking back and saying, I miss the days when we had top chess players also streaming their thoughts, because there really aren't a lot of other top players doing what you do yet. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very hard to know whether it was because of the circumstances with COVID and what was happening in 2020 that sort of changed the world of chess, being able to stream and create content, or whether it would have happened anyway, first of all. I think I first started playing on the internet all the way back in the late 1990s. There was a site called the Internet Chess Club, and I would actually play games and write out like comments. So it's called kibitzing in general terms during games, things of this nature. Now, of course, these days I actually talk, I don't type, so it's a little bit different. But I think that it was a long time coming, and certainly there's so many people who love chess, but being able to share that, you can't really do that when you're simply competing. And so what has happened with myself, there are some other creators like Gotham Chess, the Botez sisters. It's just amazing that we're able to share the game with so many more people in a way that we weren't even 10 years ago. As far as what the future holds, very, very hard to judge. I mean, there aren't many top players who are doing it. I think that's because when you look at the landscape of creating content, it's pretty much, I would say the odds of having success are actually lower with that than even a startup. You have to put in a lot of time and work. And even then, it's still, I think, a bit of a lottery for those of us who were doing chess during the pandemic. Many people got stuck at home. They sort of returned to games and topics, things that they really liked when they were younger. And in chess, a lot of people who pick up the game, it's one of two things. Either you learn it in school from your teachers, or you generally learn it from a parent or a grandparent. And so all the circumstances were great and everything worked out. But I think that going forward, probably it will have just been a very special time. I don't like being super negative, but I think it was just a very special time.
Interesting. Well, Fabi, you're a top player who's becoming a content creator yourself in a slightly different form, but building on that, so Hikaru was saying, like, there really aren't a lot of other top players doing this live commentary. Chess has been an anti-social game in many ways for many years. You're one of the first top players now giving at least insights and thoughts into how he's viewing a lot of stuff while you're still actively competing against people you're giving opinions on. So what are your thoughts on the content career you're building, and does chess need more people doing what you're doing?
Yeah, I think one of the reasons that chess became even more popular, and obviously there was an explosion in popularity, but one of the great things that chess fans can learn about chess from is that there's a lot of ways to hear the thoughts of top players, and it might not be in the way that Hikaru does it, which is in a very regular format, he's playing online every day and sharing his thoughts about blitz games, or rapid games, or classical games. But there's also, you can hear Magnus talking about his games in a less regular way, but still, you can hear Anish talking about his games. So it might not be at quite the same level, but a lot of people are doing it. And so if you're a newcomer to chess, in a way that wasn't possible, let's say, going back 20 years or 30 years, you can hear in real time about the thoughts of top players and their thought process during a game. So that's a very special thing.
Yep.
And I think, that's one of the ways in which technology has brought chess to every level, not just to the top level, but for beginners as well.
Yeah.
I'm incredibly optimistic because if you zoom into the macro of like where the growth of especially like real time and gaming type content, it just continues to grow and grow on Twitch, and YouTube's trying to compete with a lot of places now trying to compete with Twitch and TikTok, and essentially that growth is explosive, and it's across a bunch of games. But if you also take the step back and say that this is more of an opinion, but I think it's a pretty valid, that chess is most likely the best board game ever invented.
It is. I'm here to confirm.
Yeah. Oh, the chief chess officer says that. Okay, yes. But it's incredibly rich, and you can, at every level, you can continue to learn, and it's interesting, especially from being able to hear folks who are better. Like if James Harden is describing to someone like do these kinds of things, they many times they can't physically do that. They don't have like the base level of athleticism, but you can. It's also nearly impossible to ever get to any level anywhere close to the few folks on the stage, but you can at least envision yourself almost like you have with golf, where you'll sometimes hit a shot that Tiger also hit. You can also make a move that sometimes that these folks will hit, and can feel that moment, even though you're probably going to make a mistake after that. And so I think the the proof is in the growth, and obviously there are things that supercharge that growth. Chess.com was part of it. The pandemic was part of it. Queen's Gambit was part of it. The scandal was part of it. Like all these things drove growth. But I just see continued growth into the future. And also, young people want more small consumable things. They want. I'll watch Hikaru analyze something for 5 minutes that he clips out into his channel from his longer Twitch, or I'll watch Fabiano for 5 minutes versus, I'm 2.5 hours watching a baseball game.
Well, we're talking about the creators that are helping with the growth and all the other things you said too, but you mentioned chess is kind of dominating in a lot of ways on Twitch and YouTube, but there still hasn't been that breakthrough into mainstream. And Jen, I think of poker in that way.
What is mainstream? What do you mean?
Well, I think of mainstream traditional TV, linear TV, whereas poker.
Yeah, but that's like dying.
Yeah, that's kind of dying. I mean,
so you're aspiring to a thing that's going down.
That's my argument too. I was actually going to say that, but I also think that there's been some things poker has done to make a breakthrough to a larger audience, like the pocket cam. It's the first time the fan, in theory, had more knowledge than the professional in dramatic moments. And Jen, what do you think the game itself could do to give the fans a little more dramatic hooks in the way that poker has presented itself to broader audiences?
I mean, I think chess is doing a fantastic job of presenting itself. And I mean, I guess the most direct corollary is that people can kind of like choose their adventure, in that they could try to watch chess with like no engine analysis. So they're totally using their own brain. They could like watch it with great commentary and no engine. They could watch like the analysis bar go up and down, so they know even more than the great players playing.
Right.
And so I think that's probably the most direct corollary. But I think that another thing that chess has done that really caused the boom in so many ways is the PogChamps, right? Because you had people who were not great chess players, but who were fantastic creators, who suddenly were in the spotlight. And I think that inspires people that they don't have to be Fabiano or Hikaru, but somehow one day their names could be in lights if they could also amass 1 million Twitch subscribers. Well,
this is your way to remind us that we never let Daryl play in PogChamps. Is that what the throw to was?
Thank you, yes.
Daryl didn't get invited to PogChamps, and he's still upset.
You never invite me.
I never invited you. That's right. You're too good. But
I want to add something too, though, because I mean, like when you ask a question, not because I would sound a little bit negative there about whether I'm going to be like an aberration, the only one. I think for top players I will be, but I think chess itself will continue to grow. And one of the big differences with chess versus, say, a lot of the esports or games, and this specifically applies to YouTube, is that most games have changes. They have like patches and buffs and all these other things. And so when a game changes, if you watch, I mean, I'll just use Fortnite. I know there probably aren't a lot of kids in the audience who play it, but like if you look at the Fortnite of like 2018, 2019, when Ninja was playing, he had this big rise. you could watch those videos, but now if you go on YouTube and you watch a video of Ninja playing Fortnite from that time period, the video is just, it's irrelevant. There's nothing about it that's applicable to the game today. And with chess, a video that, like, say there's a video of me from 2017, that's still relevant even today. And the fact that chess is very evergreen, and you can watch a video now, 10 years from now, and it will still be the same, that is a big advantage that chess has over just about any other game, really.
Can I echo that? That it also makes the data super useful and allows these longitudinal. We can actually compare better than any other sport. We can't really compare Will Chamberlain to
We can actually use the
Joel
data.
Embiid. Exactly.
Go ahead.
And I want to finish my rant on chess's growth is that the early games that were getting lots of views on Twitch and other things were horrible games. And I'm like, why is the best game not winning? So I'm like super excited that we finally have this game that is evergreen, has great data, amazing champions, all these things all like coming together. And I just continue to see it going up.
I totally agree. And I want to throw back to you, Fabi, because I want to double down on Hikaru's answer to the question, which is that no other top players have jumped into the world of streaming. Why is that? Is it that streaming, you feel like it makes you a worse player? Is it distracting? With Hikaru, for some reason, it seems to make him better, right? Like he's not as focused on the result or something to touch on the clutch psychology theory, right? But what do you think it is that prevents more top players from jumping into live streaming?
Yeah, I think Hikaru might be unique in that sense, because I think it would negatively affect a lot of players if they were speaking during the games. While for Hikaru, it doesn't seem to really affect his level at all. He's explaining the moves.
How do you do it?
Right.
But I have to say, is there any other sport where you have someone just explaining what they're doing while they're doing it? I can't really think of anything else.
So the basketball tournament, which is this like unique basketball event, they'll have everyone mic'd and they'll have the coach in real time.
No, but you're right, Fabi, not at that level.
It's super rare, yeah. So that's the only one I can think of.
And that's quite unique. But I think with top players, it is also a bit of tradition, because traditionally, the approach to chess has been you have to study for very long games, you have to study this, and that. You don't mess around with blitz and bullet. I remember my coaches when I was a kid saying, don't play blitz and bullet late into the night.
And also, you have to be super quiet and focused to play your best chess, not talking while you're playing.
That as well. And there are stories about champions. I remember the story of Botvinnik, who was preparing for matches where the atmosphere would be very quiet, but people would smoke during the games. And so he would practice by having his opponent during training games blow smoke in his face, so that he would be ready for that during the actual championship, which of course is not at all applicable to modern chess.
So Fabi, they say don't play blitz and bullet, but how did the greatest chess computer get created? It played itself very fast, billions of times. Now, of course, it's like a neural net. So, but there could be something to tons of pattern matching, lots of rapid games.
No, I think that's true. We've learned that rapid and blitz does seem to help players improve their chess. Like we've learned this mostly from the young players who improve at such a rate, which is pretty much unprecedented in chess history. We have players who are 16, 17 years old competing with the best players in the world. Although players have been very strong at 16 and 17 years old, we haven't seen them being able to play against Magnus, for example, and hold him to a draw or fight for the first place in super tournaments as we've seen even this year.
Yep. Is that the next challenge? Have someone blow smoke in your face while you're playing and streaming and commentating?
That sounds like the next video.
Yeah, sounds like some content idea. Yeah.
Well, speaking of different formats and distractions, the other thing we wanted to touch on in this panel was talk about the other thing that's happening with the game is, in addition to technology and the online world blowing up, there are different formats being experimented with. The Fisher Random World Chess Championship, we have a Fisher Random World Champion here, experimenting with Armageddon formats. For those who don't know, that's designed to break the evil tie of chess. People don't like ties. Fabi, you played 12 games of classical World Chess Championship chess and you didn't lose. Did you know that? That was a big deal.
This is the first I'm hearing of it.
You didn't lose a single classical game. But there's the argument that maybe there was something wrong with the format because it wasn't as exciting as maybe it could be. Do time controls need to be faster? Are there things that over-the-board chess could learn from the formats, the faster time controls, the Armageddon style of the online games?
Well, this is the reason, essentially, why Magnus is not playing the next World Championship, because he doesn't like the format. But that might be for purely personal reasons, just because he doesn't like all the preparation that goes into it and the amount of time that and stress that he has to put into it. But I think there's a place for bullet chess, for 30-second chess, up until the long classical one game a day matches that we're used to historically. And I think where the interest comes in is mostly in the stakes. Like, nobody's going to watch a one game a day match if there's nothing at stake. But if it's the World Championship, if there's a lot of money and prestige and the historical relevance that the players both have invested in the match, then everyone's very interested. And we see that the World Championship consistently pulls the biggest numbers in terms of viewership because people want to find out who's the next world champion.
Jen, what are your thoughts on that? Because you mentioned PogChamps. It was a traditional format, but untraditional in that it was a bunch of people you cared about even though they were bad at chess. And is there something to what Fabiano's saying here, that there's a place still for all types of formats all the way to the longest, or is it just about the stakes being right and that you care about the people playing?
I think there's absolutely room for everything because of the growth of chess. And I think that really helps motivate people that there's different ways that they can succeed in chess. You know, some people could be really good at blitz, rapid, classical. Of course, we're talking about professional levels, but even for an amateur level player, the fact that you might be terrible at bullet, but really good at bug house, right? Like, I think that really allows really good at puzzles. You know, this idea that you could be a content creator even if you're not that good at chess. Just different ways to be good at chess, I think, is really powerful. You know, chess boxing was all the rage this fall, right? Yep. And I remember one of my own favorite creations, partly inspired by chess boxing, and I can't help but think of it now, is hula chess, where we chained the chessboard from the ceiling. And then we were hula hooping and playing chess at the same time. So I suggest we do that. We can rig it up here pretty easily, right, Daryl?
Yeah, for sure. I wanted to ask you, Jennifer, it feels like one thing that might hold back the growth, because I present a very optimistic picture, and PogChamps is like onboarding, because I think a lot of people are intimidated. They're like, it's a male sport. That's not cool, or that's
you got to be super smart.
You got to be super smart, which has been shown to not be true, actually. That you just need to be good at chess to be good at chess. So don't tell.
We're all really smart.
You're all living off that illusion. I got you. But yeah, there's all these studies that if you're good at chess, it means you're good at chess, but it doesn't necessarily translate. So how do we? And maybe you can answer this because you've onboarded more people in the world, but. Like, how do we onboard people?
I moderate so I don't have to answer the question.
Yeah, no, I'm turning the lens back onto Dan.
Hikaru, what do you think? What do we need to do to keep the chess boom going?
Well, I mean, there's also the big elephant in the room, which isn't addressed, which is the fact that, when you talk about going mainstream with chess or success, a lot of it has to do with what the prize funds are, how much money people earn as professional players. And so when you look at it from the context of trying to bring more money into the game, it's all about the audience and what does the audience want to see? Because in this modern world, eyeballs drive everything. So because of that, I think that the formats that are relatively shorter are going to attract sponsors and the viewers much more than longer formats. When you look at like Fabiano's match against Magnus Carlsen, the world champion, when you play 12 games and the games are going 3 to 4 hours every day and nobody wins, that's not what the fans want to see. And then to have it decided with quicker games after that, it doesn't feel right.
Soccer fans love that.
I was going to say.
Yeah, but all the games aren't 0-0 at the end of the day. Not all the games end 0-0. But I think certainly if you're looking at it from the perspective of bringing more eyeballs, more sponsors to the game, and more money for the top players, the quicker formats are the future, and I think it's only going to keep moving in that direction. I mean, as Daryl mentioned, when people watch content on YouTube or Twitch or frankly TikTok or any site, the attention spans are becoming less and less. So if you have shorter games or you have like content that's shorter, you will end up, more people will be interested in that. So I think we're moving in that direction for sure.
Is that another reason to maybe reconsider? I'm trying to get you to say, yes, classical chess needs to be faster. I'm just going to twist ending. That's what I'm trying to get you to say. But Hikaru talked about how the new generation or the fans that are exploding online are not only growing up watching faster time controls, they're also growing up playing much faster time controls. And the argument that it's intimidating to go from playing 5 and 10 minute chess on your phone to I got to sit for 6 hours at this game, right? Is there a better gateway drug for over-the-board chess to help make sure that these online audiences stick with the game and maybe make that leap to their chess club or tournament?
Well, I think when we're talking about the casual chess fan playing, it's going to be mostly rapid and blitz chess. It's probably going to be mostly blitz and it's going to be mostly online. But in terms of what people want to watch, Yeah, I think that probably most people would prefer to watch Rapid and Blitz, but there is that element, that faction of people, of chess fans, that want to watch classical chess. And I don't really see why we don't have room for both of it in chess. But from the perspective of a chess professional, of course I want to play Rapid and Blitz. There's so much less work involved. It's so much easier. Like, you don't have to prepare for hours and hours. And now that I'm playing
That's only because
mostly,
you've done millions of hours of prep before that, though.
I wouldn't.
Playing your whole life, right?
Yeah, of course, you still need to work a lot on chess.
Yeah.
But you don't have to do the sort of memorization.
Yeah, which
like
I would
hours and hours of
argue,
just cramming stuff into your head before a game.
Would every top player want to get rid of that? Unless that's their edge, I suppose. But
I think most players don't mind not spending hours memorizing before a game.
Not only might they not mind, I mean, Jen, you and your brother Greg Shahade, who's also a tournament organizer and a very big ambassador for the game, have been pushing kind of some different formats, faster time controls, I think, before it was cool to do that for a long time. And is there an argument to be made that the rapid time control is actually the better representation of where the sport has come? That it's not just what you remember from home, but it's also not so fast that it's bullet. It's the right balance of high-level prep and the sporting elements of having to figure things out without 6 hours on the clock. Is that another argument that maybe rapid is the evolution because it should be?
Yeah, I absolutely love commenting, watching rapid chess, blitz chess. It's so much fun. I can see why it is the reason for the growth of the game. But I have to say, as a player, all my success came from classical chess. And whenever I got into a blitz playoff, I always lost. So I do have a sweet spot for that classical chess, especially in this era of constant distraction. As like a player, it's kind of like this memory of just like completely losing yourself for a few hours. I'm not saying it has to be a 6-hour game. Maybe classical could be more like 2 hours each. That is a very special experience that I think is kind of seductive in an age of constant distraction.
Yeah.
can we lean for a second into this? Like, the World Championship drives the most interest, but it probably is the worst structure of any World Championship of any sport you could ever envision.
Okay.
Not only are we talking about the timing being wrong, right? No other sport, like, makes like Golden State would have won like 12 straight titles because like it would be like everyone fights and then they only play Golden State. Like,
right.
everyone should have to fight. Then you play 12 games. Everyone wants to see exciting things like 3. I would never go to 12. Like 12 is bizarre. Like it's an even number.
Listening to this because I want.
Yeah. I mean, like the entire structure of the World Championship is designed to make people less interested.
Yeah. No, but I mean, seriously, let's double down on that because what.
You should have a bracket. Everyone loves brackets.
Knockout brackets.
Brackets.
Right?
We did have that for a while.
Carl and Fabiano get a bye. Sorry, go ahead.
No, but I mean, I think the issue is, again, this is the thing. Chess is sort of, you have like this cultural thing where because you have this tradition of having a classical world champion with this format for, I mean, what, like 100 plus years now, people don't want to change, or the governing bodies don't want to change that format. And so, again, it comes down to sort of the practical nature of looking at making changes versus keeping things the same. And I think at the end of the day, though, if you want the game to grow, you want more people watching, you also want the professionals to earn more money, and therefore changes, I mean, should be happening.
What's the comparison? I mean, other sports have done this. They've had tradition, but they've adjusted the rules to favor offensive players.
Playoff formats change.
All those things,
Playoff formats change constantly. Different number of games, different number of teams. Like the only sports that win are the ones that are reacting to their audience and making changes to the rules, making changes to the structure such that drives interest, drives revenue, which drives better players. It all becomes a virtuous cycle. And right now at the World Championship Classic level, they've got like a vicious cycle that's working in the anti-way, which is like, it's less interesting than every other format of chess. It's like, no one wants to do it. And so now you have the best player not even wanting to play. Like, can you think of a bigger failure of a sport than you have the best player doesn't even want to play to try and win?
That is
I've never heard anything like that. It'd be like Golden State, like, oh, we won 4 times. Next year, we'll just play FIBA.
Yeah.
That'll be
We don't need to speculate about knockout format because we had the knockout format for years and nobody liked it. We had world champions from, I think, 96 till 2004 in terms of the knockout format.
Nobody.
And nobody cared about who the champion was.
Because it didn't have the history, is my guess.
Maybe they didn't care at the time, but the audience wasn't what it was now. It also was never presented in the same way that the classical World Championship match was, right? The classical match was still held up as these are really the heavyweight boxers, and this is not really the right title.
But the thing is, you have the rating system. So let's say you have a knockout format World Championship tomorrow, and you have a winner like, which could be very likely, you have a winner like Abdusattorov, who could easily win a tournament like that. And then, will people think he's the best in the world, or would they still think Magnus is the best in the world because he has the highest rating?
Right.
So how do you separate the rating system?
Sports, they have an injury, they win, they go like, oh, this other team was better, but this
It is interesting though. It's not an apples to apples comparison.
Yeah.
You're not wrong, and I think
they did change their format. They used to play over 2 days.
it's true.
Which is ridiculous.
But I think your point about reacting to the audience is the appropriate one, right? As the audience changes and as we learn what they want, the game should be willing to adjust. Speaking of reacting to the audience, by the way, we have a lot of questions coming in. Keep using the hashtag if you're in here or outside. If you do that, we might get to some of these. I don't know if we can flash the position real quick because one of the questions comes saying they want Fabi and Hikaru to throw down real quick. They're not going to throw down in a game, but the puzzle that we're showing here was chosen by Daryl Morey, and so we'll officially say that the race is on for who can solve this first, either Fabiano or Hikaru. We can come back to it.
Jennifer, what?
You already know, Danny?
What
You know
the
answer?
hell?
Oh, I already know the answer.
You just said Fabiano. Jennifer's right
Oh,
there.
I'm sorry. I only said it because the question came in.
I have
and
no
said-
chance. The other 3 have.
The question came in and said, "Can Fabi
know
and
it,
Hikaru
right?
play?"
I
So
know
that was
it,
my
yes.
cue.
So then you have a chance.
Well, yes, I can
Just
see. I can see
remembering
it.
it.
It could be our cheating scandal.
Well, now that you guys are both thinking, we'll come to you when one of you thinks you have it. I want to go to one of the first questions we had, which is because this might lead
This is
to
really
a good
clutch.
discussion.
They're going to be analyzing a position while answering.
I'm
Or
sure
you
they
can do
will.
it for
They're now that I've told them that, they're both going to be thinking about it for the rest of the.
I think we've already been thinking about it most
Okay,
likely.
good.
Oh, you already have? You guys have it?
I'm
don't
not
have
100% sure I have it.
Okay.
We're talking about the audience is growing, audience is changing. We had this chess boxing event in December.
Can they show the position for the audience?
I think they can see it, maybe.
Can you guys see the position? No.
No, they
can you guys put the position up?
Okay,
We'll let the
my
audience
fault then.
play along. Oh, there we go. All right.
There you go.
All right.
You guys just keep looking at that. It's white to play.
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like Price is Right. They could start shouting moves out.
B pawn is about to queen for black. The B pawn is about to queen for black. So just so you know the board orientation. Now back to the panel. So the question about the audience changing. We talked about this chess boxing event, which was the.
Oh, can you explain that? Because that was a pretty cool event. Explain
Yeah.
chess box. Or
So-
Jennifer can explain it.
Go ahead. Explain.
Well, chess boxing is a beautiful format, which is
And it's been around for a long time, actually.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I did know the founder, Epe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's alternating rounds of 4 moves of chess, so 4 per player, and rounds of boxing, and you win by knockout or checkmate. And so this sport was invented actually by an artist, which is
Yeah.
a pretty cool kind of aspect to it. That the artist did it as a performance piece, thinking what if you mix the 2 most opposite things in the world? How visually stimulating that would be, and indeed the pictures were phenomenal, and it ended up becoming an art project that turned into a real boxing association.
Fabi, who do you want to chess box?
Well,
have to
I don't know
choose
if I want to chess box anyone.
No, you have to choose. Who do you want to chess box?
I've said that I think in terms of weight categories, probably Anish is relatively within my
Okay.
weight category.
Yeah.
So that would make the most sense.
Yeah.
But
Who's the favorite if it's Super GM chess boxing? Who's the favorite?
I don't know what the weight categories are, though.
Okay,
Heavyweight.
I think it's probably Nepo if I had to guess.
Yeah.
Seems
say-
like probably
let's-
the most aggressive guy.
Yeah.
Is that,
I was going to say Grishik. Maybe.
I was going to say Grishik's huge, right? Or
Yeah.
tall.
But yeah, but who would he fight?
Yeah.
All right, well, we're going off on a tangent
All right,
here, but I
sorry.
wanted to get to the question. No, this is great, because one of the questions was, the game is growing, audiences are showing up for live events like chess boxing, which is why I threw to it, and the question is, I don't know your Twitter handle, but basically wants to ask, hey, all 3 of you, when do we think chess is ready to sell out arenas and for chess events to sell live tickets for fans? Hikaru, we'll start with you.
That's a very tough question. I think it involves the right personalities, certainly. If we're talking at the professional level, I think we're still quite a ways off from that. I think we're going to have to see a new generation of kids rise to the top. If we're talking more like influencers, similar to what happened with chess boxing, I think that could happen almost tomorrow.
Yeah.
With the right influencers, for sure. So it just depends whether we're talking at the amateur level or whether we're talking about professionals.
So if there's a new generation, is there going to be a senior tour of chess that you guys will dominate?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, chess, with the quicker format, certainly, I think as players, since players are getting older, but players like myself, I could see myself playing in like 10 or 15 years if there is more rapid and blitz chess than as much classical as I used to play. So it depends on the formats. And again, I think also with the knowledge base that we have these days, players will be able to play at a higher level until they're older. So I think there's some chance that there will be a senior tour, something like that.
Back to the poker question, is there something about how chess is presented that would make it better for Stadium? We need the fans screaming, you need headphones on. What are the thoughts about how chess would have to be presented in that format?
Well, you were at the Chess Boxing event, right? And that was,
Yes.
I mean, I was just watching online, but it was absolutely incredible. So, I mean,
Yep.
I think chess is just doing so many of the right moves in that respect. And I mean, think about how many arenas are getting sold out if you count all the online viewers.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, you're again chasing an old standard. So like,
You just want to tell me what you think I'm doing wrong here? I'm chasing an old standard.
it's just chasing an
I'm
old
worried
standard.
about
You're trying to
TV.
sell out arenas. I mean,
What's wrong
that's what
with
the
that?
NBA does. Like chess can dominate the new platform.
That's
Like,
true.
yeah.
That's true. But there's also, when you grow up as a kid wishing that people cheered for you if you won a chess game, maybe I just need to.
This is your
put myself
psychology.
on the therapy
Gotcha.
couch.
Well, I mean, I think that's the big difference. Like for me specifically is when I was growing up playing professionally, it's really all about myself. It's just myself against the other competitors. There aren't the fans that are watching in person. Even online, frankly, there isn't really the fan base. So when I stream now, it feels like there is a big community. It does almost feel like I'm like competing, and I do have all the support from the fans in a way that never existed at any other time in my chess career. So for me, I think that's why when you look at the future, if you have fans, you have like 150,000 people watching Magnus and myself playing in this speed match last December. Like that is the future, and that's much more important than selling out arenas.
That's 10 arenas.
That's true. That's 10 arenas. And when the chat's going crazy, it's like people are screaming in a stadium anyway. So the next question I want to ask also comes in from Twitter because it's a counterpoint to what Hikaru said. But Fabi, I'll throw it to you. He said that chess, we talk about chess being evergreen. It's the same game now as it will be and has been for years. That makes it always accessible. People can come back. But should we ever worry about it being stale in that case? And I want to come back to the format question. Is there more of a future to things like Fisher Random and more formats, or with the audience growing, is chess never going to be stale?
Yeah, I think we've heard about the death of chess for decades.
Yeah, it's been greatly exaggerated.
Yeah, and it hasn't happened.
Yeah.
I think we found that although computers got super strong and now can beat humans all the time, it doesn't really change the human element, which is what people really want to see. They want to see the mistakes. They don't want to see perfect chess. They want to see the clash of personalities as well. They want to see their favorite chess player, not just because it's the best chess player, but also because they like how that person talks or presents themselves. And so it's not just about the chess playing. We really need to see personalities in chess, and I think that's what has developed in recent years.
So chess is one of the few deterministic games that hasn't been solved and will probably never be solved. But let's say some crazy quantum computer solved chess and said, white wins or whatever. We're pretty sure it's a draw, but
it wouldn't change anything.
That would not change anything for you. Okay.
And I think that quantum computers could solve it if they actually put it to the test. I mean, it's a complete waste of resources, but
we should probably fold proteins instead.
And this is one of the issues now with analyzing chess, which is that very often you get an evaluation which shows 0, 0, 0, which means the position the computer assesses as objectively drawn. And this is completely unhelpful in analysis because it doesn't take into effect the human element and the psychological element and how people make mistakes. So it doesn't matter if the position is objectively won, lost, or drawn because it's more about the difficulty of the moves for both sides. And that's one of the more difficult sides of analyzing chess now, that you have these computers which have become a little bit too strong.
I have a friend from poker who has like a 10,000 to 1 bet that black wins if the chess is ever solved.
Well, that'll never be resolved.
Exactly.
But I mean, even if it were resolved and chess is solved, nobody can memorize it. So even if you know on, say, move number 5 that this move loses, as humans, we can't memorize the sequences and all the different possible ways for the game to end. So because of that, I don't think it changes anything whatsoever.
Yeah, you see this in poker, that there are a lot of solutions, but it's not like anybody, despite these solutions existing, nobody can play like that.
Yeah.
Well, we have a little bit of data on that in chess because all positions with 7 pieces or less have been solved mathematically. And we have some positions where the computer might say it's a checkmate in 366 moves. And for the human eye, if you go through these moves, it's nonsense. It's like complete gibberish. It's incomprehensible. It might be mathematically correct, but not only is it not possible to memorize, as Hikaru said, it's also not possible to understand any sort of pattern or anything.
Yeah.
So it's a purely mathematical exercise.
Chess
Did Magnus in one of your draws miss like some crazy?
I missed a checkmate like 60-something moves.
Yeah, it was like a 60 move thing.
That was somewhat comprehensible. Yeah, game.
I was going to throw game.
It was game 8, I think, right? Or,
The one you missed the table-based win was game 6.
oh, okay.
Game 8 was.
I don't even know my own
Game
games.
8 was the Sveshnikov. It was Queen H5.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Damn it, Fox. Only you had played Queen H5. No, I'm kidding. Chess has been dealing with, the undeniable truth that the data knows better than the humans longer than maybe any other sport, right? And it's found a way to sort of navigate that world and then ultimately kind of embrace it. We talked about in last year's panel how commentators kind of had to evolve the way they talked about chess instead of fighting against the engine. What would be a sports comparison where you have data, but James Harden just won't listen to you? Like, how does that work? Where the data says they should do certain things, but they won't. And jokes aside, is there a transition where at some point the data just needs to be trusted and you just need to do it?
Well, that's some worry with a lot of. This is why leagues need to evolve the games because, generally the best games have multiple win paths with strategic trade-offs, and chess for sure has that, and will always have that.
Yeah.
There are a lot of games, like, for a while it was like worried everything was going to be an uppercut swing, a walk, or a strikeout. In baseball, not a lot of dynamics, and they've made changes to try and address that. The NBA has become a very spacing, 3-heavy game, and there's some worry that there are very limited paths to a winning strategy where you'd rather have there be different styles that could win. And so to me, like when you ask me that question, I think of like, there are these sort of solved games, not solved like chess or Connect 4 recently solved. It's more like solved in that, unfortunately, like there's not a whole lot of degrees of freedom on how to build a champion. And so I have to think about that. I'm not sure I answer your question though.
No, it's okay. I'm just wondering if there's a moment when the data became undeniable for chess players and there was no longer a debate about whether the computer knew better. It was just how well you could either play like the computer or memorize it. I didn't know if there was a sports comparison on that level.
Yeah, I think the comparison is that a lot of these sports, it seems to be narrowing into single paths to win, which is not really good for the fans. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Speaking of the fans, another good question. People want to know whether the World Chess Championship coming up without Magnus will have a dramatic negative effect on not just viewership, but on the game. Hikaru?
I mean, it's definitely going to have a negative, there's going to be a negative outcome in terms of the viewership for sure. For the game itself, I don't think it changes much. So many people are already familiar with the top names, and certainly the fact that there's so many events that players like myself, Magnus, Fabiano, and others are competing in. I think because of the awareness online, it won't really have that big of an impact. I think it's not great for the game, but it won't change anything because everything is moving online at this point anyway.
Okay. Agreed?
Yeah. There's so many great things going for chess. Obviously, this is not one of them, but should be a fantastic match, and I think it's still going to get a lot of attention.
Yeah, I don't think it will change much. I mean, there will be a lot less viewership for the match compared to, let's say, the one between Magnus and Jan and Pamiyachi. But the game itself won't change. People won't lose interest because of it. And I think it will lead to a situation where people care less about the World Championship title. But people can still see Magnus play online. People can still see Hikaru play online. So it doesn't change how chess is viewed.
Yeah. You're still going to watch?
Of course.
Yeah.
Only because you're commentating.
Actually, well, twist ending, I'm probably not. It's in Kazakhstan. I'm not waking up at 2 a.m. We're a European-based crew, man. Okay. So the position. Have either of you guys solved it? I want to have time to show it for the fans because
I have some idea. I have some idea that it's something silly, but
okay.
I'm not 100% sure.
I'm not 100% sure either.
I mean,
I think it's like King C6 Queen and Rook G7. I think it's something silly like that.
I thought King C6 B1 Queen Knight D7 was.
You want to move it while there's.
I was waiting for them on the queue, so I'm gonna. I'm gonna
No, don't give them the answer. Just
show what they want to
show
analyze.
their moves they're playing out.
Okay, well, this is your last chance, fans. If anyone
Rookie
else wants to
7?
try to solve it.
E7?
I think black is.
You think it's no? But
They say king,
there's
king
there's
c6. Now what?
you knight b6. Yeah.
So I thought
How are they
knight,
doing, Daryl?
Yeah, rook e7, rook e7
Now, what's the next move?
Yeah.
so knight d7 was I thought what it was, but because rook e7 I couldn't figure out king a8 here. What to do there?
7. 7 check knight b6. Yeah.
Daryl,
One thing
this is
that's
your chance to show them
Am I
what
allowed
you
to?
know.
Am I allowed? No, I don't. I didn't know this at all. Am I allowed to embarrass chess.com for a moment?
Always.
Chess.com's computer doesn't see this solution.
Because after rook e7, you can move the rook.
There's a complicated answer to
You
that.
can
It has
move
to
the
do
rook-
with the cloud
I
engine
don't
on
know,
the
like
app versus
eight.
not. Okay, like just if you actually want to
or
know,
something.
I will explain it.
a3 and king b6 and queen g6, right?
What?
You mean rook
it's not
e7?
e7? It's after rook e7. Yeah.
Oh,
You move the rook to.
rook a3 I thought was mate.
There's some mate somewhere. Knight
Because-
c5 and king b6.
Knight b6 and rook e8 I thought.
Jen, you have an idea here?
And king a5 and check and knight d5 is mate.
Yeah, that's probably it, but I'm not 100%.
Can I get up?
What do you say to the
Yeah.
move?
Allowed?
What's the move?
Yeah.
I thought it was this, but sorry.
Okay, but
But there's one thing I couldn't like 100% figure out, which was
Well, he's already confused, which means this isn't the answer. I'm guessing.
this isn't the answer.
Yeah.
But I don't have an engine. I wish there was an app that could tell me the answer.
Robert, can you go up and help?
Yeah.
I was just gonna say. I
Oh,
wish there was
Robert,
an app that
Grandmaster
could tell me
Robert
the
Hess.
answer.
Oh yeah, Robert Hess is here.
He's got it?
What is Black's answer here?
I thought
So
queen h1, e4, queen h2 was like the only way to solve it.
okay.
And then I was
Yeah,
like,
who knows?
looking at rook g7, but it was a bit vague.
Okay. You guys are onto the right idea, but wrong move order.
So rook e7 first is.
No, the first move here is e4 first. To block the queen from the
Ah,
rook.
okay.
And the main idea, everybody, is that because the queen is taking the rook, you don't get to do the plan you'd like, which is to move the knight with a discovered check because of this. So you have to block the queen first.
So e4, king a8, and king b6. Okay.
If king a8, king b6,
Yeah.
right? So the move is queen g1. And then the final line ends with knight d7, knight b6, and on king a6, you put the knight on d5, threatening mate on b4.
Nice.
And the game's basically over from here.
Yeah, we could have taken 20 minutes and found it.
Oh, that
but,
was too
like,
hard.
I wanted to show him. We can even
What
do more
level
questions.
puzzle is that? Like 30,
It's
3,000? That's
yeah,
too tough.
It was your idea, Daryl.
This was like-
we did it. And then rook a4,
Yeah,
rook
rook A4,
h8 is actually like the
Knight C7.
final
Yeah.
solution.
This was
Okay.
like the equivalent of you making Robert Hess run a marathon. yeah. Simul.
For those who were at the first ever Sloan chess panel we did, if you're an OG, you're awesome because we really messed up that year. We did a simul for Robert that was literally impossible for any human to do, and he was sweating.
He was
Love
sweating
you,
and
Robert.
running. Every other person of his level would have just given two birds and
Yeah.
said, "I'm out of
And
this."
I hate you, Danny. This was a bad idea.
All right,
Okay, well, we kind of answered this earlier, but I was planning on ending the panel with this and just talking about what chess needs to continue to do for the boom. And I've been lectured many times that we don't need to do anything differently. We don't need to try to sell out stadiums. That was your answer.
I was just saying,
don't need to try to get on
chase
TV.
the old, chase the new. That's all.
But what about your shirt? I got to agree with that shirt for chess, for the
So we-
future of chess girls.
we
female?
need more women, and it seems to be happening, right? What do you have data on this, aren't you?
Yeah.
Isn't your female games played going up?
Yeah, the female user base it's still under 30%, so we want to drastically increase that, but it's higher than it's ever been.
That's why you need a PR person. Lead with the positive.
Lead with the positive. I'm not very good at that. You already learned that during this whole scandal. But Bobby, any closing thoughts you have on what chess needs to do to continue the popular rise?
I think it has its own momentum now, that
Yep.
it might carry itself. I do think that there is a space for, similar to how chess boxing was presented, if you get the right people behind it, people that can bring those fans from other esports into chess, then you could get a really good live event going. And I think one of the things that chess had, which was started many years ago, is the glass box, which keeps it quiet for the players, but keeps the spectacle that all the
I looked
outside
into
viewers.
those glass boxes, though. They're very expensive, just FYI. So yeah.
You have the money, Danny.
Chess.com's going to invest in it.
Yeah, but I mean, even when you think about that, that has been done in the past. When you look at the World Championship match, it was played in '95 at the World Trade Center between Kasparov and Anand. They actually did do that, where the spectators could look in, and it was basically like a glass room that like no sound got in. So those things have happened already. It's just a matter of finding the right timing and like the right people and these sorts of things that I think will make the difference.
I think Carlsen broadening the base of money that comes in. There's been sort of a narrow set of sponsors, people who support chess, and it seems still need to have that broaden out so it's across all the categories. Watches, like the NBA has. We have a broad base of sponsors, TV money, everything that sort of perpetuates everything. And I had a question that's maybe a little personal, but to me, like you playing for the World Championship, Fabiano, or say if Hikaru would make it in the future, any American, it felt like it should have been a bigger deal when it happened because, obviously the first American to be playing for that and if that had happened now, do you think it would be different for you?
Yeah, I think it would be bigger, although at the time it did get a lot of publicity, but now it would explode in an unprecedented way for sure.
Would have been epic, yeah.
Do you think some of it was like you needed to be a little more, I don't know, bombastic? I mean, like there's like a whole personality angle to chess. So Fischer was obviously one of the greatest of all time, but a lot of like the attention was obviously the time, U.S. versus USSR, but also like his personality being like.
Yeah, why couldn't you like threaten Magnus more or get a face tattoo or something, maybe?
Yeah.
I think that would have been a huge mistake. You always need to be yourself because you get seen through if you're not yourself.
Yeah, I think the times were really crucial for that match gaining so much popularity. We don't have something like that now. I mean, we could if it was U.S. versus.
I guess Ding going against Ding, Loren, might.
Ding Liren versus Nepomniachtchi.
Well, there's a bit of a U.S.-China.
Well, yeah, but Russia against China, I'm not sure.
What's that?
It's not really a conversation we want to touch on right now.
Well, I think there will be future World Championships with U.S. players. That's going to be a huge boon. I also think it's great and really exciting and heartwarming to hear about all the percentages of females on chess.com skyrocketing. But let's be honest, there's still a lot of underrepresentation of women, especially when it comes to leadership in chess, to chess coaches, to chess authors. So I think if we improve that, like the numbers are going to explode. And that is one beautiful thing about chess, right? That it crosses gender and age boundaries, that you can have people competing of all different types. And I think that we really need to lean into that more. I mean, LGBTQ plus representation in chess could certainly be improved a lot, especially at the international level, where sometimes events are held in places where there aren't good human rights for members of the LGBTQ community. So I think those are some areas I'd really love to see chess grow into.
I mean, is it the only sport where a woman was a top 10 player in that sport in the world? I mean, I think.
And that story probably isn't told as much as it should be.
Yeah.
When you say that, I wonder how many people know exactly who you're talking about.
How many people know that there was a top 10 woman?
And could name her, right? And that's
can you name
that's
her?
part of the problem. Right?
Yeah, we got some hands
Shout
up
out
here.
the name.
But I think you're making a great point, Jen.
Yes,
I think it's
over here. We got it.
there you
That's
go.
right,
Okay.
Polgar, you did Polgar.
Which sister?
Queen's Gambit showed us that too, right? You had the protagonist was not the traditional chess character. I mean, that's been a big problem with the game. Is when you think of the game historically, you think of what is the logo of Chessmaster? An old white guy holding a chess piece. And that's what chess has been viewed as, right? And I think that the game is changing. I think the game is younger than ever. It's more diverse than ever. But those stories and also getting better representation is certainly really, we're only just starting to do that. So.
And Anya Taylor-Joy did tweet Queen's Gambit too.
Apparently her account was hacked, by the way.
People said her account was hacked. Okay.
All right, last round of questions. Nepo or Ding?
I answered this question recently. I think I'd give a slight nod to Nepo.
Why?
But a very slight. The experience and his team is probably a bit more professional. Like we've seen Ding come to candidates basically alone. I don't think that will happen for the World Championship, but I don't know if he has the same level of team around him. And also the experience, even if Jan lost the match, it still is very valuable experience of what he's getting into, especially for the first two games when you have to get adjusted and it really hits you like a truck when you're there under the spotlight for the first time. So those first games, and we've seen Ding struggle in the first games of tournament, even in the last candidates. He lost to Jan, for example, with the white pieces. So we've seen Ding struggle at the start of tournaments. I think his advantage is that he generally can make comebacks better than Jan can. So if things go well for him for the start, then he's probably a favorite. But yeah, I would still give maybe like slightly more than 50% to Jan, but only slightly more.
Carl, you're nodding along. Does that mean you?
I mean, I just think it's just not super important who wins really at the end of the day, and it really
I love that
it's going to come down to what changes happen so that the best player in the world will compete for what should be the most prestigious title in the game of chess.
You're making me have to read the next Twitter question because that was exactly the question. Is if that's the case, what will we be talking about in 5 years as the pinnacle of chess, or 10 years? Will it be the World Championship title? Will it be a series of combo of the future of an online hybrid title? And you answered the question by saying the current World Championship match doesn't matter, so what will matter in the future?
I mean, I think most likely it's going to come down to online events. I mean, when you look at the ecosystem of where there is sponsorship, online chess is where you do have big sponsors putting in serious money to have these competitions happening. And I think that's only going to keep growing because the base of people who watch chess, it's much bigger online than it ever has been, and it will keep growing. So I'm pretty optimistic that chess online is the future more so than over the board.
Okay. Well, Nepo or Ding, Jen?
I'll go
Everyone has
Ding.
to choose.
I'll go, I'm going to answer his question and say the future at some point will be a huge prize pool, rapid 960 tournament will be the biggest thing
Okay,
in
so
chess.
Nepo, Jen,
I say Ding Liren, and
Ding Liren literally doesn't care. Had to get it in. Literally doesn't care, and some
I'm
random
gonna-
answer.
Yeah.
I'll say I also think Nepo's a slight favorite, so there you go. But that's our panel, everybody, and I hope you enjoyed solving the chess position and hearing from these
thank you.
Thank you.
awesome,
Danny.
awesome chess ambassadors.
Crushed it, man.